At this pivotal time in humanity's evolution, we are beginning to remember our organic technology. A technology, when used correctly, can create an experience that the majority of the people the world over want to live. It is time to use this technology consciously for our own benefit and healing, and no longer unconsciously for our own demise. We are divine creators, creating both our own personal experience and our collective experience moment to moment. We invite you to join us as we reawaken this technology to experiment and experience our power to create and manifest. Become part of the 3%.
Good morning, everybody. It's Chris Hales here. Welcome to the Collective Imagination. Okay, folks, I'm going to have an unusual show today. The guys in Morocco are off on a road trip, doing something mysterious in the Sahara, which we'll no doubt hear about at some point, which will be extremely interesting. But the upshot is, I'm your host for today, and we're actually going to do not so much a collective imagination show today, although I've got a few announcements to make because, the collective imagination is Lisa and Bob and myself and Brian and one or two others at times. And I'm going to do an update with Julien Wells. Now, a lot of you may have heard the sessions I've done with Julian. They're posted on various places. Been doing them for about 3 or 4 months since January, as Julian has progressed through his rather remarkable, shall we say, evolution. He's been going through an evolution. And now the only complication here, folks, is I've got to pick the right one. He's got his hand up, and 465, that's it. Morning,
hello?
Julian. How are you?
Have you got me?
I've got you.
Okay, great.
Excellent. You're on the road.
I'm on the road. I won't be on the road the whole time, just for maybe the next half hour. Hopefully it's not too much interference.
No, it's pretty good. There's a little bit of road noise.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. Still got a day job, so... Yeah,
Julian and I just had a little catch-up earlier before the show, because this has been rather ad hoc. Lisa and Bob basically said, don't do a show this morning, but there's some announcements that we really need to make, and I was going to do an update today with Julian anyway, so I thought, we'll take advantage of the time.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
Well, actually, what I'll do is I'll start with an announcement. If you can just sort of keep your eye on the road for a moment. Yeah, if you can mute for a moment. Yeah, great. Thanks, Julian. Okay, folks, a couple of quick announcements. Actually, a couple of funny things first. There was a posting by Mr. Drake yesterday, which was drawn to my attention, and it actually aligns exactly with the ridiculous bit of misinformation from Ben Fulford, whom I've read for years, and I've always been aware that these guys are given a lot of false information, but apparently 11 of the 15 OPPT persons are hiding out in the mountains of Ethiopia, and the FBI is actively looking for them, which I find extremely amusing. And apparently there's a bunch of people from Swiss Indo who are hiding out in the jungles of Indonesia, which I also know is absolute bunk. So hilariality, actually, it's just ridiculous, the disinformation these guys are passing around. So maybe someone could drop a few of the show links into Drake's website. I used to listen to Drake. I actually feel kind of sorry for him. I think he had a couple of months' worth of interesting information, and unfortunately for him, that was about 18 months ago. Ever since then, it's just been what I actually call waffle. Don't have any loaded guns nearby when you're listening to Drake, because you may want to do something drastic to yourself. Now, the other interesting thing was a video that's been put out by one of the crew called Mushi. It's called Ethiopia, and it's inspired partially by the silly things that have been said in the last week or so about the crew in Morocco. So if you just go to YouTube, Google, search for Ethiopia, and you can have a few minutes of hilarity with that as well. And now for a slightly more serious announcement, we actually have, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to come on today, was because of a rather serious problem for one of the crew associated with the UV Exchange website. Now, there's an article on removing the shackles, and I'm going to just pop it in the chat room, making sure I get to the correct spot. Okay, for those who want to drop into it, it's on removing the shackles. It's actually called Urgent Exchange of Value Required, and this is something we're going to be talking about this morning with Julian, is what is our value? Just what is it? We're going to try and get to the bottom of that. As you recall, Bob, in a course of about an hour and a half on several Skype chat rooms, went from having no money for his plane ticket to having over $2,000 for his plane ticket. This is simply a reflection of the way that our value system actually works. This is the human value system. What we've got now is a problem with Bezy Riga. Now, Bezy is absolutely the stalwart and main girl on the IUV Exchange website, and Bezy has got a housing problem. Now, Bezy had an accident. She had her leg broken in several places, and she's been recovering from that. Plus, she hasn't been able to get employment. And that doesn't add up to a great cash flow. She needs our help. She's got about until June the 15th to move out of her house. She's got a pussycat, computers, and she is really, really needing help. So what I'm doing is putting out a call. Assistance could be financial, assistance could be helping her move, assistance could be, giving her some space to come and live in. The accommodations she requires are in the Seattle area, in Edmonds, Washington. She may be able to extend past June 15, but she does need to resolve this so she can get on with it. She's put a huge amount of work. She's been putting about 60 hours a week in of her value into the website, and she is fantastic at it. If we need something put up, she can have it up in minutes. She's completely dedicated to it. She's actually done a couple of interviews. She did a really, really neat little interview with an Australian couple the other day who are quite successfully fending off the banks over there in our country on the western side. And if you haven't heard it, pop onto the website and have a look at it. I don't. The name of the person she interviewed has completely gone out of my head, and I won't attempt to pull it back just at the moment. But if you want to meet Bezy, so you know who we're talking about, just look up the interview. It's within the last week. It's actually the interviews with a lady called Sydney Mitten. Okay, did a lovely job. She's actually going to be a good interviewer as well. So PayPal donation's been added to the IUV.com website. And donations can also be made by through American Kabuki. So if you know someone in Seattle, Edmonds, Washington area, perhaps you can ask around. Perhaps you've got a room to rent. There's the complete article describing the whole situation on the Removing the Shackles website. And this is a classic exchange of value. She's put a huge amount of time in, and she's got great results, and we need to return in kind. So, folks, let's put it out there. Let's just show what our value can actually produce. Okay, Julian, are you still there?
I am.
Very good.
Hanging out. I'm actually in Seattle. I'm not sure what I can do for Bezy right now, but obviously I'm going to start looking into it. So if she needs a hand, Bezy, if you can hear me, if you need a physical hand, I can see if I can come and help you. I don't know what sort of help you need on a physical level. I don't know what kind of monetary support I can do yet. I'll have to look into that with my financier, my wife. But yeah, I'm here. If there's something I can do and lend a hand somewhere.
Well, there you go. That's, how about the universe answering? Talk about instantaneous. When I was on the...
I think not.
So can you repeat that?
It's not coincidental, I suppose.
No, apparently it's not. Apparently it's not. When we had Jerry on last week reciting her poem, and I asked her if she, could do a poem on peace, she said, "I've got one," and read it out. So, that's the way that the universe seems to be working at the moment. The synchronicity is quite stunning. Quite stunning. So, Julian, we've got a couple of minor announcements for yourself as well for a show tomorrow night, or tomorrow for you, called Optimistics, where you're going to be dropping in and chatting with the folks.
Yes, I'll be. They've invited me to hang out and talk with them. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with that show, but it's like OPPT Mystics, and they've been running it for a little while. I have not honestly called in or listened into too many of their shows, so it will be ad hoc and just see what there is to chat about. I hear they love talking about everything, so that's my department. I'll talk about whatever, just from my point of view.
Yep. I think we have one of the ladies in that show actually in the chat room at the moment. Hello, Diane.
Oh, Diane.
Diane's in the chat room, yeah. In fact, she says, "Yay, Julian." I won't be able to. I don't usually watch the chat room very heavily, folks, but I'll pay as much attention to it as I can for this session today because it's just me. Usually, it kind of split up between Bob and Lisa watching the chat room. So, but look, as far as the transitioning show, Julian, I spilled the beans there. What have you got in the next couple of weeks on transitioning?
We're going to have Andrew Bartzis on the transitioning show this Saturday. And we have a lot of excellent subjects to cover. If you haven't heard of him before, he does a really good rundown of the basics of what he talks about in the Walking in Energy show, which is on Sundays. And for the past 3 Sundays, Chris and the gang from Walking in Energy, Michael Monk, and they've been basically discussing what has really been going on and what we can do about it, and giving a really good overview of where we stand. And from that point, people may have questions, as I have, and so I plan to take that conversation a little bit further. So if you want to be on point with what we're probably going to be discussing, it's going to be built upon this last Sunday's Walking in Energy show. And those archives are available for anyone. But even so, I don't think it should be too hard to follow. But Andrew and I have quite a few subjects that I would really like to speak to on an energetic level, and just sort of elaborate in ways that I'm interested in, so I can pick his brain. I've had conversations with him in private, and I'd like to have those now in public. So.
Well, that will be extremely interesting. And the following week, you're having Thomas Hughes on.
And the following week, we're going to have Thomas Hughes. I've been getting telepathic contact with the Sasquatch, and, of course, he's much more an expert on that. And we're going to collaborate and discuss what's going on with those individuals that we know that are here, but we're wondering what they're up to. I think we're going to get an update or a download and start speaking to just how involved many different races are in this cosmic moment in time that we're in right now.
Yeah. In fact, Julian, we're going to have Thomas on for a while in the second half of the show, so you can... we can actually do some of that, have some of that discussion today, and you can just continue it a couple of weeks from now.
Sure.
Yeah, that will be fun. That will be fun. Look, what I thought we'd do with the show today is because it's kind of a Julien Wells update, which is what we've been calling these discussions that we've been having. I thought I might do kind of a run through the sort of material that we normally run through when we do an update, and then we'll start talking about value and what is our value, because that's one of the things that's prescient with people is, the universal exchange is actually it's a universal value exchange is going to be coming online soon, and we need to just discuss some of the philosophical aspects of what actually is our value and how that relates back to how we use that value in living and working together.
Oh, philosophically sounds good. I would speak to it energetically, but that's about the same thing, I think.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. The next year is going to be, I think interesting is the only word I can use, because I don't think there's a word that will actually describe it. When we get to the other end of it, we might have worked out words to describe it, but there we go.
Okay.
So let's kick off into the update. Now, we normally just first of all discuss the energies, because the energies at the moment are just rippling around the place. I'm getting lots of comments from people about how energized they're feeling or how affected they're feeling by energies. How are you feeling about them? What are you seeing?
Well, let's piggyback something that I mentioned in the last update, which was in the transitioning show, because you played that recording during the transitioning show last Saturday. I mentioned that there was this kind of wave of energy that was going to crest and was going to really turn into high access to doing energy around yesterday and today, really being obvious. And my being sensitive to energy, of course, I can feel, and I've been accessing and I've been using this, and it's been really phenomenal. So I can speak to my own experience more than I could speak to just everyone's experience, but it's a particular boost of energy. It's like a wave that's been long in building. It didn't just suddenly appear. It's like if you're looking at the ocean, it's like a wave coming in, and it lasted through last Friday and probably will continue through until tomorrow, particularly noticeably. And just yesterday and today, we can see it's sort of like within a wave, you can see the white part, right? And I'm just going to give that to the symbology of that part of the wave as an actual transition and manifestation, an actual manifest reality effect. So with waves, of course, and with energy, you need to, in order to harness it, you need to recognize it. You'll be a part of it, and it'll just sort of like send you along like a boat on a river. But if you want to harness it, it's to recognize that you have access to it. And in particular, this one I like because it's very broad. It's just a very overall, incredible empowerment type of energy. It's a gift, very specifically offered. I like to liken gifts as not necessarily astrologically determined, if you know what I mean. Like, we have a lot of portals that we go through where energy is more accessible, but there's been these gifts, and these gifts are relative to the personality of the energies that we live within, and that is the surroundings of Gaia and the surroundings of the solar system and the sun. Obviously, the energy, pools from further off than that, and, may actually have astrological origins, but my personal perceptions don't expand too much past the sun. So is there actual, solar flares or anything like this? I don't check for that. I'm not, exactly following that type of data. But what this empowerment has brought is basically a degree of confidence in that your thoughts may be able to take action. You may begin to actually do what you've been thinking about, and you have greater, some people might call it blessings to do so. You'll find yourself much easier to take action in the span of all that there is meant to develop. When I say all that there is meant to develop, I say the awakening of humanity. So if you have actions that you may take that you know about and have maybe been waiting to do so, like say you've been wondering when is it a good time to tell your parents about this, or address something with your spouse where you weren't sure how to address it. Well, if it's all in the name of the betterment of all of our experience as humanity, then you're going to gain a lot of support, and this energy will be very accessible to you. And I'm starting to sound like a fortune teller or something like that, but I'm speaking from personal experience, knowing this, that I really feel like I can do not anything, but I really feel that I can address things in my life very confidently and say, this is not serving. Let's recognize this for what it is and begin to put it aside. Now, when it comes to relationships, it's not so easy to just put things aside, as we probably all know. What we'll be looking at is how to address the discussion with those that are in contrast to us. You know, at first it seems if we get into arguments or whatever over semantics or circumstances, we get caught up in the drama, and we begin to find ourselves, you know, getting lost in the subject, and then it gets on to tangents. And, of course, every conversation is a co-creation. You can't always expect to go in there and get exactly what you want out of the conversation with what you intended it to be when you started. But in this time and place now, the grace is there for you to address your personal relationships that seem to be slowing the process down, and also to take action that you might have been wondering when the best time it is to be a doer or to begin addressing things on a physical level. Now,
well, I have to say,
yeah?
I'm going to say, Julian, I have to say there's been I just checked the last 3 days on the solar flare situation. Pretty quiet. Little C-class flare, and that's about it. And nothing happening in the way of electron-proton storms. But I must say that over the weekend, the ramp-up in drama was extremely noticeable. There's an awful lot of kind of drama going on,
right.
things playing out, situations developing, and to be honest, I sort of arrive at this point, and I'm feeling pretty much over drama. I'm pretty over it.
Yeah. So one of the symptoms many people should easily recognize is people are getting angry easily or irritated, right? And they people who are not quite awake, you might say, are having some really difficult times expressing themselves, or they're just bringing up, you know, dramatic energy or drama-like energy. And what that is a sign of, that's a sign of the energy wanting to push through the blockages within their physical body and their energy body, right? It's sort of like, I don't want to get too crude here, but it's sort of like working a plunger on your toilet when it's clogged, right? There's some work, and it wants to flush, it wants to move forward, the water wants to flow, and it's got to get some plunger action in there to get the flow going, and so this energy is the plunger, right? By itself, it's not terribly creative.
I was going to say, that's a very interesting comparison you've made there, because, yeah, some of the drama that I encountered over the weekend fell into that category.
I'm sorry to use it, but it's the best visual I can offer to symbolize the energy.
No, it makes a point.
But as an individual who is familiar with the access to this energy, we can be the individual that is a little bit more functional with the use of the plunger, right? We can take our skills and make functional use of the energy as if it was a tool, right? Now, you'll find that it is 100% anti-manipulative. So if we have any ego involved in this, it's going to actually work against us 100%. So be careful, because you might be forced into your own clearing. Now, that might be precisely what you need. So to bring up debates and whatnot, you may find yourself be actually the one who benefits the most from dealing with the energy, wanting to find a way to come through. Now, when I say coming through, I mean, what's on the other side? I mean, what should we expect from this type of energy flow? We should expect, basically, to be at a greater degree of comfort with all that is. And when I say that, I mean, you know how those following this show and whatnot have gained a greater ease of understanding of the power of their imagination over world circumstance, and just getting a greater grip on what's really going on the bigger picture. Well, it'll be more easy to speak on these things when harnessing this energy.
Yeah.
Now, I'm already talking to, you know, it's kind of exiting tomorrow, and that doesn't mean that, you know, we still can't be, you know, beers and doers and be, you know, highly charged. I'm more probably expanding a little bit of what's been going on, but this is a first among several wide-scale energy gifts. I've used the word bumps in the past to describe sudden shifts of energy, and this is a bigger than that. It's larger scale than that. And a lot of the bumps have very particular energy patterns that they support, but this is a wide-scale offering of energy. It's almost like the next best thing to receiving cash from Gaia sort of feel. Like, go on and you know, and do something with this cash that benefits everyone, because you don't want to misuse Gaia's gift, and it won't work. It won't work being misused. It'll work against you. It'll work exactly how it's meant to. So if you go out wanting to harness this energy and try to place some truth in someone's lap that's not ready for it, you might turn out that it's a better lesson for you in that using of that energy and bringing it forward.
Julian, the two things.
Mm-hmm.
There is some serious rioting going on in about 3 or 4 locations. Well, there's Turkey. There's some in, I believe, in Japan and elsewhere in Europe. Now, are the energetic circumstances actually just amplifying the angst and contributing to this?
I want to say they wouldn't have existed without this wave. That's a pretty bold statement on my behalf, but they're a result of people knowing what the truth really is and what we really do, what we do actually have access to when it comes to the knowledge of ourselves and who we really are and what we deserve and where we belong, and those that don't, and pointing that out.
Yeah, it struck me that it was quite striking, the fact that those events were taking place while this wave is coming through. And my second question was, the thing that we always go back to in these updates is the event, this shift that we're talking about. I think we've well established that it's coming in stages and it's a process and not just, a one-off 10-minute whatever. This wave would appear to be part of it.
Well, I'm going to help clarify, perhaps. Mm-hmm. There is an event that is the mysterious event, and it is a short span of time, major circumstance that everyone will experience. But what there are is there's preparations for the event. There's several moments that are developments that will allow the event to be more easily invited. Now, the event, because it doesn't actually have a date or a time, is a threshold of, I don't want to say invitation, but it does involve invitation on our behalf to transpire. But it still has a setting in which it would be most effective. So the setting still needs to be placed. And that is invited by these particular moments where we're giving opportunities to prepare for the event. There's not, it's you know, it's an oxymoron preparing for the event when the event is impossible to prepare for. And it won't matter, it seems, after the event what preparations we've done, right? It's like, why not have the event now? But there are specific things that need to come in line, and I am not entirely familiar with these moments. But I do know that the moments will be recognized when you're in the flow, because things like this energetic wave of this last weekend is fundamental to transformation on the planet. I mean, when I say fundamental, I mean, I don't think many people are coming out different, you know, coming out being the same person, unless they literally have been sitting in front of the television for the last, 5 days. Even those sitting in front of the television are going to be somewhat affected. So,
yeah, look, the one of the themes that comes up particularly with Lisa when she talks about her ever shifting evolution throughout the last couple of years is just the fact that she looks back, sometimes a week and just can't recognize herself from last week. And I have a feeling that, what's going on in Morocco between the crew over there is very, very much a co-creation. They're actually they're sort of coalescing and working together as a collective. And that's a very much an evolutionary thing, and I think it's driven by all the processes that have happened up to this point. Not just something. There's obviously things going on there energetically on the spot, but I think all of the things that they've gone through as a group have led them to be able to take that next step, and that's really what these waves of energy are doing, I feel.
They are, and for some people, I'm going to apologize. It's going to sound like you're walking through a fire, but it's a purifying fire. It has only the very best intentions behind it, and so it can be painful. And I'm not going to, make up stories and say that, this energy isn't potentially uncomfortable. If you were the clogged toilet, you'd feel kind of uncomfortable. But the point being is that after going through this circumstance, you should be at a higher level of comfort. This types of waves are actually mandatory through the next 2 months because there's so much illusion that just needs to be scrubbed off right now. There's so much veil in the way of progress, and people need to get a couple slaps upside the head, and if you're comfortable harnessing that energy, you're going to be blessed in those actions. But the moment your ego creeps in, note that it may be very much more supportive of helping your own development. So there's no fail here, actually, but I'm letting people know that there's a choice. I'm also going to let people know that next weekend we get another one. It's going to start again next Friday. There's another thing very similar. And they're not necessarily going to be bigger or smaller, but radical energy that will develop in a lot of visible doing. So, and these doings are clearing. They really are clearing.
Yeah. So we're going to see more of this manifesting amongst sometimes in these updates we've discussed what you've sometimes called the unconscious ones, those who've yet to awaken, and because a lot of the action that is going on in places like Turkey, etc., is simply superficially, it's geopolitical. It's the government doing something, some social issue, that's provoked people, but. Is it really a clearing? Is it really all of this angst that's been going on for generations, foisted upon us by the system, actually being served back on the system?
It's the system recognizing how dirty and crummy it is right now. Okay?
Yep.
Now, obviously, there's a good reason why it's not being reported on mainstream. That's a sign that is really good. I know it sounds like it's a bad sign that mainstream is not talking about it, but trust me, it is a really good sign that they're not talking about this. For those who wanting to know that there's progress being made. Okay?
Interesting.
Don't be disappointed when mainstream is not doing what you think their job is. They're doing their job better than we knew they were capable of doing their job. And their job is not what we think their job should actually be. They've been given a job, and they're doing a fine job. You can reward them. You can offer congratulations to doing your job and being that point that represents, a development. And, I know a lot of people are concerned about mainstream never waking up. That's an impossibility, okay? Mainstream is waking up. It has to, and it actually is, but don't, beg for it to step forward in a short span of time. If it did, it would allow people to fall asleep again with the new data. It can be spun in any way that those that are still in the control of negativity, it can be spun in any way, and you can, if you continue to actually rely on an outside source, it's gonna, you're still gonna have work to do, a lot of work to do, because that's only the tip of the iceberg with regards to reality.
Yeah, my sort of view on what's developing with the potential scenario for the mainstream media is the rubber band effect that Bashar talks about, where it's going to progressively become so obvious that things are being concealed, painfully obvious. It's going to start looking like the Three Stooges, comedy capers. It's going to be quite ridiculous that they don't actually report. Which means that when it snaps the other way, the effect will be hopefully permanent, and people won't go back to sleep again.
There's many ways of interpreting it. I mean, some people might look at the Three Stooges and actually think they're hurting each other, right? That it's not a skit.
Yes.
So they'll have the empathy related to the pain of what that must be. Right? So there's many ways to take one's observations of what is going on. And so the doom and gloom people can empathize with the way that the Three Stooges act is going on, and they can say, oh, my God, things are getting worse. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
They may just, use it for the aspect of the doom and gloom because they're in alignment with the decline. Right? So, there's unfortunate duality in almost every observation we can have. And since most people, even those in light worker communities, are not purged of duality, virtually no one is, because everyone has an ego and a personality and an alignment to what they're comfortable with and what they're not. There's always ways to misinterpret the data that they see in front of them. And it's not that it's misinterpreting. They're interpreting exactly the way they're comfortable with it. But, so you can't just point to, hand someone a truth and say, look, this is clearly evidence of progress. And they can say, no, this is clearly evidence of the opposite.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what can we do to sort of reduce that contrast and get out of the this or that, me versus them, hell or heaven? Because, that's the old paradigm. And to come out of it, it can be really challenging for people. Oftentimes when you speak to a place where it looks like that you're above something, people only understand that as a superiority complex. like the only angle that they can interpret the way that people speak from that point of view, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand something, and it's too bad, you're not getting it. So to speak in that direction is difficult. To act from that point of view is more useful because ego doesn't always act if it has something to lose, right? You don't necessarily, an ego wants to be rich, but it's not willing to go rob a bank to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But someone who is the new paradigm truth doesn't need to rob a bank. How did that person find himself wealthy, you're wondering? There's no judgment over the robbing the bank or where the money came from. They're just saying, this guy's got it. And that's inspiration. And that's what the value with our everyday activities.
Yeah, look, we'll jump into that later in the show, actually, and
okay.
Well, I have to keep an eye on the time here because we don't want to run out of time to talk about that. Let's whip through some of the other update things that we normally talk about. How are our friends upstairs going? What's any news from their camp?
What am I allowed to say? Not that I know yet. I'm gonna see what they're willing to offer me here.
Well, what we can offer them is that we're definitely seeing definitely seeing reports of increased sighting. That is definitely happening. So thank them for that.
Oh, they hear everything that I experience. So if you say it and I hear you say it, they experience it.
Yeah.
I'm a walking camcorder for them. It's a bit embarrassing sometimes, but they're very polite. Actually, I take that back. Sometimes they're not polite. Sometimes they're a bit obtuse. It gets them turned into a funny little thing. They're wanting. Oh gosh, it's going to actually be a really big download. Give me a minute.
Are you still driving, Julian?
No, I've just parked at home. I'm safely able to concentrate a little better.
I was going to say, don't be doing that while you're driving, please. It's not a good thing.
Actually, you know what? Give me, if you could hold the air for about 5 minutes, I'm going to walk into my house and say hi to my kids, and then I'm going to come back on again when I'm in my backyard and relaxed. Okay?
No problem.
Can we do that?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to mute.
I'll mute you at this end as well. Okay, folks. Well, while Julian's in, Julian is a remarkable character. Actually, he's someone who really only took up energetic practices, I think, 18 months ago. He started doing the energetic. The course with AvatarEnergyMastery.com, and I think he'd done it by decision. I think he'd felt he'd always had a bit of talent in that area and he wanted to develop it. And he proceeded to go through their course and found that he actually, yes, in fact, there are certain aspects, particularly the energetic aspects, which he really, really clicked in with. Now, subsequently, around about December last year, January this year, he really started to create an intention to work with the Akashic. Found that he could do some very interesting things, like creating real-time bar graphs of data that was coming through, and eventually, over a period of weeks, developed it to the point where he could start to see a 3D time-scaled version of the Akashic, if he actually requested it. Not that he could understand what he was seeing, because the process of his evolution thereon has actually been working out what all that data meant. But in addition to that, he actually managed to establish telepathic contact with more than one ET group, and in fact learned also how to actually communicate with the higher mind of the individual that he was in communication with. So if you're speaking with Julian and you give him permission, he can at times, not 100% of the time because it depends on the permission aspect, he can actually help you communicate with your higher mind. You can actually ask questions about yourself of your higher mind. And should you ever do that, be aware that there's a permission aspect. There are things that your higher mind won't tell you because they're parts of lessons that you're yet to learn. But there's kind of a set of rules relating to how that all works. The reason I'm talking about this is that Julian is a signpost for us. He's actually a forerunner, a way shower of things that are coming for us in the fairly near future. And because he's sort of a recent, he's recently walked this path, he's not that far ahead of us. And I personally find it really encouraging to talk to him about how he got to where he is, because he's not so distant from us. I mean, I've met a few people who are, to be blunt, very much more advanced than where Julian is at a lot of levels, and that it's like talking to, if you're an amateur anything, so an amateur sports person, an amateur painter, talking to someone who's been doing it for 30 years. I have this experience myself with the guy that I train martial arts with. He's been at it well over 40 years, and there's just an aspect to that kind of mastery that you look at it and you go, wow, I could never get there. But when you view someone like Julian, it's quite possible indeed. Okay, so the other thing that we'll be talking to Julian about is what our value is. The subject of access to value has, been coming up continuously, especially since the OPPT material started to come out. And we're not going to be necessarily talking about, how the IUV exchange is going to work in its initial phases, etc., etc. I'm more interested in identifying the galactic view of what is value in a civilization, in a community, in an individual. And an important subject because, initially, whatever the IUV exchange turns out to be, it's going to be fairly rooted in 3D technology and 3D concepts, and hopefully interface neatly to the 3D system to an extent, so we can get a bit of relief for people who need it. Now, what I might do, while Julian is out, he should be back in a moment, is actually take a call here, because we've got some people on hold, and what I'll do is go for area code 347. Hi, area code 347. How are you?
Hello.
Hi, who am I speaking to?
Yes, how are you doing? This is Flo.
Flo, how are you?
Yeah, this is Flo. This is good. I'm doing pretty good. Not expecting to be online now. Love you guys. It's a little difficult for me to hear. Maybe you can't hear me too well either. I'm having some connection issues.
Yeah,
all love and peace. No ranting tonight. Just relaxing and listening. Glad to
have you heard
again. Thank you so much.
Have you heard Julian speak before? Flo, have you heard Julian speak before?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we've got a bit of a connection issue.
Yeah, I've heard him a couple times before, I'm not... I'm real familiar with what he's doing. I love what he's doing, man. I wish we can, have a little bit more time to have a chat about it and, go into more detail. But I love what you guys are doing, man. And, I just say more power to you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure how to get in touch with all of that, outer energy and Akashic stuff. I don't know. I'm not like,
well,
I understand it. I get it, but I don't have any of that of my own.
Yeah. Same here. I haven't gone down that path. I don't know how that actually works. I get little bits of information every now and then, as most people do. You just kind of learn to recognize them. But yeah, it's really, as I was saying before, is a great example of where we could be, and I think it's coming. But I'll pop you back on hold, Flo. It's great to hear you.
Good deal. Thank
Cheers.
You guys so much. Peace and love.
Okay, area code 575.
Hi. This is just real mundane, but how do I get to this OPPT Mystics through the phone? Can I call a number? What can I do? And because I had a real hard time, I have a hard time navigating the computer. I'm
sure.
sorry.
Tell what I'll do. Diane is in the chat room. She's one of the people who runs that show. Diane, are you there? If you can hear this, is there a phone link into your show?
Or any show.
Yep.
Because I'm just new at this, and I'm really, really interested in how you guys are going, because it seems to be the only real way.
It is.
I mean, it really is from our inner being, and it just amazes me, and it sends chills through my being that this is out there. And I'm really not computer literate, so I got to have I had a hard time getting to last night's show because I didn't know if it was the same number or not. I don't want to take your time, Not
a problem. Look, Diane is going to post. In fact, Diane, if you wouldn't mind, if you can hear this, if you could post the phone. I'm talking to Diane, who's actually one of the hosts on the Optimistic show. She's actually in the chat room at the moment. I'll get her just to post that on my Skype. She knows how to do that.
Is your Skype? I don't even know that.
I'll pass it on to you. It's just the chat room moves by so quickly. If she posts it in the chat here, I'll miss it. So
I'll get it on my email or something.
No, I'll actually read it out on air when she sends it to me. Okay?
Okay.
So just have a pen and a bit of paper ready.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Thank you a lot.
Okay, no problem. Your name again?
Mono.
Mono. Nice to meet you, Mono.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Back. Oh, cheers.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I'll see if Julian's back yet. Hey, Julian.
Yeah, I'm back.
Very good. I've just been doing a couple of calls, and how's the family? All well, I hope.
They are. Doing very well.
Excellent. Okay, so we were talking.
Right. So it's funny how I can get downloads over a period of time. So even just by the initiative over the last 5 minutes, I've been able to get access to our Galactic friends, sort of filling me in a little bit, what they want to share. There's an intensity about humanity that they can observe as if it was a light, and it's as if to them the Earth is its own sun, like it is like a beacon of light. It's extremely majestic from their point of view. Not just the Earth, but the inhabitants of sentience and high levels of consciousness on the planet coming forward. And they can recognize when there's a dampening, or the light is not as bright. Right? They can observe lack of light, you might say, or darkness. And for the most part, the light is very engaging and interesting to observe, because light is also representative of data, information. And so it's sort of like being able to swim through the Akashic. You can find out all sorts of interesting things, kind of as if you were able to poll everyone's minds and see what everyone is interested in their daily activities. But there are spots in which there's a lot of lower energy relative to pain and suffering. And these are actually anchors to reduce the opportunity for the event to transpire. There's lots of deep, dark, thick energies that still exist on the planet. A lot of these are intentional. They're not accidental. They're intentionally fabricated to be that way. And what they are doing actively is working on those. There are people that are in positions that are like physical slaves, mistreated humans, mistreated animals, mistreated elements of Gaia that are particularly at a state of discomfort with where we all want to go. And they're really focusing on this. I can feel it.
Mm.
And it may not be public information that we need to know about day by day, but and they're not trying to stand on their soapbox saying we are doing stuff or something like that. But they've been letting me know that there's been a lot of fundamental things that we can't see that has to be taken care of to raise the overall energy. And there's not many people that can do this stuff, because it's not like what you might think of as like boots on the ground, soldiers, knocking down the door to like a crack house or something like that. There's a lot of subtle energetic influence, and if you can understand telepathic messaging like Jedis do, where they give suggestion of thought, they have those capabilities to influence and sort of allow the energies to flow so that circumstance will lead to these dark spaces freeing themselves. Right?
The riots, Julian, the riots that are going on. I mean, there's a lot of human emotion being expressed there. Would those areas be amongst the dark spots, or are they areas that are just kicking off baggage and are in the process of clearing themselves?
There are high contrast spots. High contrast spots are considered areas where there are, wars or physical conflict, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really, let's call them high contrast zones. They usually get the most attention, but you'll get a lot of non-physical beings highly involved in those circumstances. Unfortunately, it is a high degree of both types of beings, like not good ones and good ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to be sure, the light ones outnumber the dark ones, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It's almost like each person has their own individual support team, right? And so it's not like just sweeping energetic influences. It's very individualized for each individual. But they're working as a team for the bigger pictures as well, right? Many people have multiple guides. You can say personalities that you don't know about that sort of follow you around in your life, that you've made an agreement to at a at an unconscious and higher aspect sort of level. These guys set up lots of things in your life. There's sometimes the cause for you to have synchronicity. They arrange synchronicities, and they can also be the ones that help you learn lessons because they have particular interests in you waking up. And a lot of these have different specialties, and so in places like these riots, these guys are working, overtime.
Yeah, and does that involve actually, using ships to do things energetically, or do they actually just work at a distance in the ships?
So the ships are related to the more physical galactic friends. These guides that I speak to generally don't have physical form. Okay? So there's both sides of the story helping. Now, the guides don't take a lot of physical action, but they support a lot of the energy that influences eventual physical effects. When I speak to the galactic cousins, they are actually, specialized on different subjects and skilled at different areas. And the way that they can influence us or support us the most is to continue to work on an invisible spectrum.
Yeah.
When I say invisible spectrum, it means they actually can be in a room with you, but you won't know that they're there.
You wouldn't know they're there, yeah. Julian, it's coming up to the hour, so we'll take a break in just a minute. Were there any other specific messages that they wanted to pass on to us? Because after the break, we'll have Thomas on, and I want to make sure we get out any critical information they might have for us at this point.
Critical information is not going to come through me, unfortunately.
Okay. Importance? Relevance?
I want
Anything
to say
you'd prefer to get out
critical, now? If it was information for us to know, then they would tell me something like that. But there's lots of data that I'm just being reminded is sensitive.
Sure. Now what I meant was anything that you wanted to get out, because once we get Thomas on, the subject matter will change. Okay.
Okay.
As it does with Thomas.
I guess what I can speak to is that there are some people right now, probably even in the audience, that are inviting close encounters, I guess is probably the best word to use. Physical close encounters, and they want to remind you that they really are not noticing that. So they're taking a very high notice of the invitation, and obviously they want to do everything they can to come into balance with those people asking, and find opportunities for physical meetings. And it's almost like, I don't want to say something, but I guess I got to say it because they're telling me to. But these people that are inviting are most likely going to be the first people they're going to want to come see when the sightings are officially,
Well, that makes sense.
Approved.
Why would you visit someone who hadn't even been thought in that direction? Obviously you're going to see people who at least have a desire to meet you.
Yeah.
So I guess the message there is to folks is keep that intent. Now, Julian, just to make sure we get through the morning in an expedient fashion, I'm going to have a song break so people can go off and do what they need to do. I just want to put out the number for the Optimistic Show phone-in line. This is for Mono. I hope you've got a pen there. It's 347-205-9129. That's 347-205-9129. That's the Optimistic call-in telephone line for tomorrow's show. So having said that, Julian, I'll put you on hold, and we'll just play a song, and everyone can do their thing.
Great.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Chris Hales. We're on with Julien Wells, and in the second hour of the show, actually, I'll just bring Julian back on again to make sure we've still got him. Julian, you still with us? Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to bring in Thomas. Thomas, how are you?
Oh, I am. I'm making it.
That's good. It's better than not.
True enough.
True enough. Okay. For those of you guys on the show who haven't met Thomas, and you've been on the Collective Imagination before, haven't you, Thomas? A number of times.
Yes, I was in Countdown back in December. In
the Countdown, and at least once since then, I think.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times when you were doing the OPPT with Lee Tucci.
Yep. All that stuff is all still ongoing. It's just morphing and changing into other things. But look, welcome. And it's great to hear you. And one of the things that's happened while I've been doing these Julian updates since January is he has actually acquired a connection to your good friends, the Sasquatch.
Oh, yes, we talked about that for a little bit here a few days ago, wasn't it, Julian?
Yeah, just between us. I was reaching out. We had not actually formally met, so I wanted to say hi and share a bit of my experiences.
Okay. And this is rather interesting for me. This is in 24 hours. I've been on 2 radio broadcasts, and I'll put the link in the Skype chat if you'd like to publish that, and people can look at the date of June 3rd with JP, and he interviewed me last night. So this is the second radio show I've been on in about 24 hours.
Well, and maybe there's some information that the universe requires you to pass on to us, Thomas. How are things with your friends? They're
what's the best verbiage to use? The volume is being turned up is one thing I can say. It's increasing or going faster. I'm working with more and more people in regards to their experiences with Sasquatch, and it comes down to a first-hand experience where they actually go out in the woods, perhaps, or they live in the woods, they live in a rural area, and they have questions, and for some reason I get the bullseye painted on me, but I'm not the only one, thankfully. I do the best I can with it.
Indeed, these are people who are actually just curious about Sasquatch, or have some previous experiences with them that want to push it on further.
These are people that have ongoing experiences. There's a man in Canada, and I'll just say Canada, and it's a rather wide country, since it's the width of North America. He's having first-hand experiences. If you would like to see some of the videos that he has with recorded language or anything like that, you can go to YouTube and search Sasquatch Ontario, and you will find some of his videos there. Or you could just simply go to YouTube and search Apes Don't Weave. It's one of his videos, and he is being left weavings. I guess from different types of vines or plant material. They're leaving them on the deck of his house or on the railing, and so that's all I can say about that.
Okay, but leaving a gift like that is actually, that's a form of communication, of course.
Yes, something that I went through 5 years ago. I call it a peace offering, so that there may be peace between that particular human and the Sasquatch person that's wanting to have further communication or interaction with that human, because as we go through this time that we're going through, those connections will come closer and closer and closer, and it won't be long before having the Sasquatch people, or whatever you'd like to call them, as common in our daily life as the Wookiees were in the Star Wars series.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that kind of strikes me, is that people always, they look to the skies and look for ships in terms of other races who we could potentially interact with. But what we have is we have one living amongst us, at least one. I mean, I know there's more, but it's rarer to speak about them, and that the Sasquatch are probably the obvious one there. But there's also those inside the earth in the form of the Agarthans, which Julian has had some contact with. And Julian, are you still with us?
Yep.
Yeah, the Agarthans, are they? Have you actually bent your thought in that direction of late?
So, I'm going to be honest. After finding out that I have a particular alignment with the Pleiadians, my missions are with communications relative to them. So most of my communications come through a feed because I can understand them best telepathically. It's almost like if I'm going to speak to the Agarthans, I either invite one to talk to because they aren't coming to my doorstep, or I go through the intermediary of the Pleiadians that I have access to, and then they sort of invite the conversation into place. And what's particularly interesting about the Agarthans is they are like a mobilized physical force, right? They're very boots on the ground physical beings, right? And so they're quite literally doing things that I probably shouldn't talk about. Not that I know about them, but I'm not finding out because they won't really speak to that. Mm-hmm. They recently explained to me that there's a lot more than I think they are, because they are particularly good at psychically shielding themselves. They really need to, because if one is not psychically shielded, then any number of goons can go and chase them down. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But they're highly expected to be a part of, I want to say, wave 1.5. There's actual waves planned in terms of meeting of galactic species, and they're going to be on the heels between the first and the second meeting. And so they're quite excited and about that development to be. I know some people personally who contact me that are not public who do say that they sense them very closely and do receive direct telepathic communication. And in those cases, those people have personal Agarthan bodyguards that remain invisible. And they support the environment and help those individuals be protected from real serious goon issues.
Mm.
So it's like having your own sort of like Secret Service agent.
Indeed. I mean, there's at least one person I'm aware of that actually has a personal guard from, I think it's the Arcturians, who actually are constantly with this particular person. In fact, it's quite amazing. We think we're alone on this planet, and we've got at least one species amongst us, below, and others below us and above us. It's actually quite crowded around here. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's quite amazing.
So there is actual planned introductions, like real things, like sign up to go to a conference, and at that conference, one or a few of them will make themselves available and not manifest, but will reveal themselves in front of the crowd. They'll probably start with the channel that knows about them, and then the channel will have a transition period where the individual who's speaking through the channel will probably, lower some kind of barrier to us being able to see them, and then fully become fully visible for anyone, even those who are completely non-psychic. That's a little bit of the types of interactions they see coming forward. And the Agarthans, they all sort of came up with like a format that we'll be introduced to in terms of that the unveiling sort of activities. They're going to be fairly controlled, but there's also going to be, literally backyard landings too. So it's going to be quite a gamut, just different societal groups will want different types of things that they're comfortable with in terms of coming into terms with meeting face-to-face. And my impression is that the Sasquatch have their own idea, but it's in terms of their introduction, it's going to be more like, you come to our house and then we'll talk, not like they'll come into like a a conference or something like that.
Yeah, well, all I can say is, Julian, I've got this little concrete courtyard in the backyard here. Would make a great landing pad. Just putting that out there.
So another thing is they don't typically actually land a craft. They just create a gravity well so that they can float down.
Same thing. That'd be fun. But it sounds like they're planning in quite a bit of detail as to how they're going to go about this. And Thomas, I presume the Sasquatch are still kind of ramping that up somewhat. You told a couple of stories last time we spoke of actual, almost public contact happening between odd people here and there.
Yes, there's a woman that I know in Canada, and in addition to the man, and I spoke with him about this. This woman in Canada, she lives near a small town or a town in Canada, and she was sitting on a bench on the jogging trail, and one came out of the woods and began talking with her. In fact, it was on a jogging/biking trail, and it was 5 o'clock in the morning, and there were some joggers that were coming by, and they stopped, gasping in surprise, because here's this 7-foot-tall man with hair all over his body, right near the edge of the jogging trail, and she had to think on the fly and tell those people, it's okay, it's just my cousin, we're planning on playing a prank on someone this morning. And then she looked at the Sasquatch and said, it looks like it's working, Billy. It worked on them, it should work on our friend. And so they laughed and they continued jogging, and they just kind of waved their hand as they went by, and he held up his entire arm and waved vigorously and said, hi! And they kept right on running, so they didn't even know it was a Sasquatch. They believed what she said, and that's why I have such a problem with the word believe, because, question, and people don't ask enough questions. So,
no, they don't, and, people's beliefs are going to be, challenged right, left, and centre fairly soon. The word believe is going to become, much discussed about past, present, and future beliefs. And Thomas, have they actually spoken to you much more about the concept that one of them put to you, where they said, what if your dreams were flipped with your reality?
No, and I haven't asked her any more questions about that. I'm still working on wrapping my head around that particular concept. So, as questions come up, I will ask them, of course. But right now, I'm still just working on the concept of everything I call reality is really imagination, and everything I call imagination is actually reality. That's the definition they put across to me. So, enough said on that.
Fair enough. Look, just as I'll make one quick announcement. Apparently, it's being asked as to where the Moroccan group have gone. All I can say is all I don't know, which is that they're doing a trip into the Sahara, road trip of some kind, and I think they're going to be doing kind of group meditation and some energy work and having a good look around. So consider it a sabbatical for those people who are wondering. We'll get more details about it, and hopefully some photos and videos of what they found. Love to go out in the desert. That would be a fantastic thing to do. So hope they have a good trip.
Yeah.
So, indeed, and back to the discussion. Because the last time we spoke, they told you that within a few moons that things would really start to shift. Well, that's pretty much about now, I think, Thomas. Maybe a few weeks from now. So,
the event stream is speeding up. It's not dependent upon time. It's dependent upon events, and as the events are going forward, obviously the IRS scandal is one of the events that is coming to light. There are other events that are transpiring as we speak that most people are unaware of. the fact that 80% of the bee population has been killed in the United States of America, or North America itself completely, it's one of the events that is speeding this along, and there are several events of that nature that are helping to speed this along. So the more they try to tighten their grasp or their grip on keeping control, the more slips through their fingers. Is all I can say about that.
Yeah, it's like 9/11. It caused a short-term geopolitical shift, but medium to long-term, it woke up millions of people to the fact that something really nefarious was actually going on in the background.
Yeah, I watched a video today with Mike Gilliland.
James Gilliland?
James Gilliland, I'm sorry. And during the video, I was somewhat disenchanted with the rehearsal or conference call that he had, and if you allow me just a moment, I'll look and tell you what it was. That's not it. Ron Van Dyke and Bill Ballard, were the two that I was listening to, and Bill Ballard said right in the video that yes, it will be a dimensional shift, but everyone has to get where they're going to go before the dimensional shift will happen. So we're nearly there. I checked about a month ago on the population of souls and human skin suits that are ready for this dimensional shift, and we're floating a little over 60% right now, and our target goal is 2/3 of the population of humans on this planet going through the shift. So I imagine as we approach 2/3, then we'll shift, and it will be, as it was explained to me, it will be a fast shift, and as Chris Thomas described on your show here back in December, we have the evidence to show how fast this shift will be, because when a woolly mammoth thaws out in the Arctic Circle, they always find the body of the woolly mammoth with the last thing that it was eating still in its mouth, not completely chewed. So you can imagine how fast the Ice Age had to set in, or everything had to freeze in order to freeze the last thing the woolly mammoth was eating, freeze it in his mouth. So that's how fast things change on this particular planet.
Not to necessarily expect an Ice Age. Don't worry. Don't be concerned about that.
No,
I'm not.
It's just
an
example.
Suggesting. Yeah, I'm just suggesting how fast things change here on this planet, and that's what we're approaching. So when it shifts, all the people out there that are saying we're already there, well, I'm sorry, I'm still in the skin suit, I'm still in this reality, and there's still plenty of, shall we say, stupid people around me. So we're not there yet, but we're getting there.
We are getting there. Okay, we're coming up to the last half hour. There's a few people with their hands up for calls. Just to remind you folks, this is not quite the Collective Imagination show. Just to remind folks, we're doing a filler show, and it's myself, Chris Hales, Julien Wells, and Thomas Hughes. And you guys up for taking a couple of calls?
Yeah, I wanted to point something out.
Go ahead.
What I wanted to point out, you were talking about how some of the people here on the surface of this planet have Agarthan bodyguards. And while it hasn't been made public that I'm aware of, I will simply make it public right now. You were on the call, in fact, when after the show was over here about, I want to say about 4 months ago, when Heather Tucci disclosed to all of us on the call after the show was over here on Skype that she has the watchful eye of the Sasquatch people. I think it was, she said she has 4 15-footers in her corner. So, if you recall,
I do indeed. And so they are also they are capable of remaining not visible to us.
Oh yes, very much so.
You know what they have that I heard from them is they have a spidey sense, just like Spider-Man does.
Well,
they get a tickle on the back. They get a tickle where they know something's coming that is not in alignment with them.
It is similar. I guess you could describe it that way. What I can say about that, in my experience with the hairy folks, and that's what I call them, the hairy folks, because they're folks or people, and they've got lots of visible hair, so I just call them the hairy folks. They are in such synchronization with this planet and everything on it that they can talk to the trees. And of course, when you're in a forest, there's nothing but trees. So one tree sees you coming, it alerts all the other trees, and it daisy chains all the way through the forest, all the way to the mountain, 10 miles away. So they know where people are at, even if people don't believe that they're there.
So they've got an advanced warning system through nature.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, there's like no way to get the drop on them.
How cool is that? Makes perfect sense. Absolutely makes perfect sense.
I bet they'll teach that to us.
If they want to actually see what's going on, they will tune into some kind of bird in the area, be it a crow or a vulture or a condor, a vulture, same thing, or an eagle or a hawk or maybe even a small bird, and they will look through the eyes of that bird. And
so they've got early warning radar. They've got drones, as it were.
Yes. Yes.
They've got a fleet of whatever they like.
They're very. My impression is that they're very much already energy masters, the way Michael has access to his environment, through just having his perception. And those students and myself, we can expand your perception and actual feel of your surroundings. And it's very pleasurable to be in that experience. And I can imagine these guys being always like that.
It would be impossible. It would be impossible to find them should they not want to be found. You know, even if they couldn't make themselves invisible, it would be almost impossible to find them because they'd just be too far ahead of you. Although if they were in an area of buildings only where there was no natural things, they'd be back to just the birds and whatever other life was around, not just the trees and so forth. So I guess it's no wonder they stick to the forests.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Look, let's take one of these calls.
Sure.
I'll just unmute the first one. It's area 678. Hello,
hey.
How are you?
Hey.
Hey,
it's
who are we
Cheryl.
speaking to?
This is Cheryl Whitestone.
Hi, Cheryl.
I'm on I get in the chat room quite a bit, but listen, I've been shape-shifting for years with Rolling Thunder and Sun Bear. I was with them. I've been visited by triangular crafts in 2012. In 1972, I had a craft that split my skull, ignited my third eye with a magnetic fire, put a positive and a negative sign on my forehead. And I've been kind of waiting for the world to wake up. I was always quiet about it because I was afraid of coming out. I shapeshift into animal bodies. I can borrow an animal's body. I'm trying to work on some accounts of that, like in the form of a book or a film or something. I'm an artist, too, and I'm Googleable. I also have a film. So Cheryl Whitestone, and it's with the Cheryl, Whitestone. I also make orgone. I've been listening to Ark since the first of the year, but I want to say something. Something very exciting happened that I thought Julian would be excited about and everybody else. I had a couple of things teleport, my own personal belongings, and that's the weirdest thing that's happened to me. Now, I know Rolling Thunder could do that. I actually shapeshifted with him into a wolf body, and I met him out, I don't know where, in the Southwest somewhere, and then he came to Atlanta. I got him into Atlanta. By screaming, I was fed up, and this was in 86, and I had a health food restaurant at the time. I said, is there a sane person on this planet? I demand you show yourself now. And that's how all that happened. But this is what our human capabilities are. But we can do all this, okay? And I'm still normal. I have an art business. I have a portrait business. That's if anybody would buy one, I'd be doing better. But at any rate, but the fact that things teleported just last week, and Julian was talking about the energies, is really interesting. I had a little pipe wrapped up in a bandana, and I hid it, in my briefcase. Well, I was out in a store. I opened up my purse to pay for something, and there was the little bandana with the pipe in it, and I freaked out because I'm not going to say what it is, like Nick. I'm a weirdo. I smoke a little pipe once in a while, and I freaked because and then I went to the car and I looked in my purse. I was going to hide it somewhere in the car. It wasn't there. So I went back in the store and I asked the guy. I said, "Did you see a blue bandana, tied in a knot?" And he goes, "No." And I said, "Oh, well, if you find it, it's not mine." And so I went back in the car and I went home and I was mystified. Well, I went and looked in my briefcase and there it was. Okay, then I was out again, and I was on an appointment, and so I was all dressed up, and I had some earrings on, my favorites, with little butterflies and turquoise on them. That's kind of weird because it's transformation. So I'm in a fabric store buying some doodads and stuff, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I notice one of my earrings is gone. I searched the whole store. I hadn't, I was on the appointment, then I went straight to the store to shop. I searched the store. I asked the clerk, "Have you seen my earring?" She goes, "No." I look in the parking lot. I look in the car. I don't see it. I get back home. I've still just got one earring, and I'm kind of bummed about it. I go upstairs, and it's in the bathroom. I don't know, but Rolling Thunder could pull his pipe in from the ethers. So I'm just saying, hey, it's a preview of what's going on. And then the Connect came with Heather, saying, well, they go to get the gold, they bring it up, and it disappears because it's really not rightfully theirs, right? Or, she said that it's got DNA, and now it makes sense to me. I'm going, okay, it's real. And so I wanted to share that with you guys. And the other thing is, there's a Sasquatch in the yard here. And I'm, telepathically can communicate with them. And guess what else? One thing about the Native American experience and being able to shapeshift, I've also gone down corn plants into the earth. It's that primeval thing that is in human beings on the planet when you connect with nature, that the Sasquatch are also holding that space for us because that's a way more elegant design than any craft. We don't need crafts. We don't need computers. We don't need anything. That's what's amazing about our beings when we're fully ignited with all our DNA strands. So I just want to say that, and thank you guys, and I love it. And by the way, I do make Orgone too, and I'm on Facebook. So if anybody would like, I've been working with physics of Orgone, and I had a fight with the military and I had to learn about scalar waves, and I've gotten pretty good at that. So I got those things, and they're great. They'll assist help you with your guides and your emotions and all that. So, all right.
Right.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Cheryl. Really appreciate that.
I'm definitely going to look you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe. I'd like to get in a Skype conversation with Julian, but I'm an artist, and my funds are tanked, and I have an old computer. I can't get in a Skype room, or I can't even get a flash drive up. But so I'm hoping that the money gets better.
Well, we know you have a telephone, so
can I call on the phone through Skype to get in, on some of the? Because I'd like to talk about some of the.
Let's connect on Facebook, and we'll talk about the different ways we can connect.
Oh, that's great. Okay, great. Thank you. That's great because I am so ready. I've been waiting for people to wake up, and it's like, okay, I can come out now and tell people they're not going to drive a silver spike down through my heart now.
Yeah, I think, Cheryl, I think there's going to be just a huge number of people like yourself who've been waiting. In fact, there's a friend, a lady I met a about a month ago. She's been waiting for 20 years to come out with some of the stuff she knows. And I think there's hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people like yourself who are just waiting for that moment. And it's here. This is it.
That's great. I'm so happy. I thought we weren't ever going to get here. The last thing I thought was, oh, my God, we're not going to get the Earth in the direction we need to go. And I was ready to check out.
Yeah, well, I think it's a last-minute dash for the line, but we're going to make it.
I think we are now. I'm really happy about it, and I'm grateful for Opt and Heather and everybody and you guys, and it's all great. Pulling all this metaphysical community together, too, is great.
It is.
Well,
I'll
thank
pop you back on hold, Carol. Great to hear from you. Make sure you hook up with Julian on Facebook.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Guys, just before we lose too much time here, we'll take a couple more callers right at the end. But one of the things Julian wanted to talk about on the show today was our value. Now, I know Thomas will probably have his views on this as well. Julian, do you want to actually spend a couple of minutes talking about what our value actually is to you?
I guess that's the only way I can do it. Because if I were to say anything besides my experience, people wouldn't have the greatest degree of empathy. But let's just say, let's start with what we think value is and work our way backwards into the reality of why we think things have value, such as money. So money and gold, precious and unique items, and things like our labor are functions that we understand that there's value in. We understand that, if I do a job for you, then it should be worth this amount in cash. And, of course, we all know that value is, up to the discretion of the understanding of the individual. So if I mow your lawn, I could ask for $25 or I could ask for $50. And, what does it really matter in terms of the difference between the 25 or the 50? It is a perception of the exchange. From the point of view of, can energy be measured and can value be measured? It can, but it's not going to be significant in such a way that we can associate a dollar or a number to it. Because, in fact, even our breath offers energy to the manifestation of our reality. There's value in you just breathing. There's value in you just placing your gaze in front of you. There's actual transformation through every moment of thought that you offer. There's value in your thoughts, not just your actions, because what you're doing is you're syncing up with a moment that leads to another moment. And what you're actually doing is you're developing a synchronization of moment to moment, where moment becomes the next based on the trajectory that you set for yourself. So we don't walk around the world walking in crooked lines. We generally walk to our objective in a straight line. And so by placing our awareness on our intent, we move ourselves into the experience that we're directing our attention to. Now, we often get distracted, and it seems like it doesn't happen, by the snap of the fingers. Yes, to walk from your front patio out to your car, it might take a couple of digs to get there down your patio because it might not be straight. But we all know that it takes us, relatively 10 seconds, 15 seconds to make that journey. Getting back to value, what's of value is for your actions to be predictable, right? We all want a common value of exchange, and that's why we use money, because it's predictable. And sometimes predictable is synonymous with being grounded, which means that, we have an establishment of exactly what it's going to mean, and we can all cooperate and agree on this, even those who don't understand money, like our children. Like they'll eventually get into the groundedness of the value that we associate with the dollar bill or whatever, or how valuable mowing the lawn is. And under those circumstances, the people who actually are involved in determining what the value is, they become the real money masters, you might say. They become the real people, because if someone tells you what this is worth and you agree to that, then you're stuck with that worth. You're stuck with that value. It's determined oftentimes by default by us growing into a system. You didn't grow up thinking that, breathing and just having your gaze in a direction was worth $100 an hour. No one ever told you that had any value at all. In fact, some people say that you're a waste of space. And the value is always used to recognize an interchange between two people. The value you have to yourself is infinite, right? Just being alive is of infinite value to yourself. But you use the word value when you're working with another individual. And so often there is an exchange of some form, and then the word value begins to start being used. Now, those who understand that value is subjective and that value can be grounded into many different forms and many different ledger-based balances, knows that if they can get you to agree to a specific grounding of it, then they can make use of it, especially if they're entirely in charge of the rules. So it would seem that it doesn't behoove us to agree to any kind of monetary value, because it's just a form of limitation when in reality we can experience ourselves and our intentions and our developments and our attractions infinitely. And
yeah. Thomas,
so we're stuck in that perception.
We are stuck in that perception. Thomas, the Sasquatch, how long have they actually been on this planet?
Oh, they've been here. Back and forth between the planet they used to live on and this planet. As long as we've been here, they've lived here for about 500,000 years. Prior to that, they used to go back and forth between here and a planet called Maldok, which is now an asteroid belt outside of Mars. So,
and to your knowledge, on this planet, have they ever used a representation of exchange? That is money, representation of value.
No, it's more a case of how can we be of service to each other. And so they assist each other. There may be, for instance, now, as things are at this moment, in the now, if one tribe has access to certain types of herbs, like echinacea, for instance, and another tribe does not have access to those herbs, there will be a type of trade, because the tribe that needs the echinacea may have access to something that the tribe that has the echinacea, they may have access to something that they don't, and so a trade occurs amongst them. But regardless of whether there is anything to trade or not, they will take the echinacea to the other tribe, because at some point they may need assistance with something, and so at that point the other tribe will come and assist them with whatever they're needing assistance with.
Yeah, because this harkens straight back to the very start of the show today, where I was talking about what happened with Bob and his plane ticket. And indeed, look, it happened with Lisa too. Lisa got assistance from friends, and there are others in that group, and we'll talk about that at some stage over the next few shows, how the whole gathering of the group in Morocco took place, because a lot of them just didn't have the money to get there, but they put word out amongst the community where they'd been creating value, they'd been putting their energy into it, and it was returned in the form of plane tickets. And on Bezy Riga, the webmaster for the IUV exchange, who's going to have to move house very shortly, puts out a call for assistance in Seattle. Well, guess what? Julian lives in Seattle, so Julian's on the case. We could work that way. We've just had representations forced upon us for a really long time.
So the representations functionally give us limitations, right? Because what they do is they establish a line and they say it's not worth more than this. And that is not inherent to our nature. And we all know this. We all know that, money is like monopoly money. It's used for the game in the purpose and time that it's used, but we're not limited to that. And when it comes to exchange, we're going to come up with completely different forms of universal exchange. And don't let your imagination fool you. It's going to be something that's going to work worldwide. Now, do I know what that is? No, but I know that that's perfectly the way that it's intended on a really grand scale within many embodiments. Many people are actually going to be able to live completely outside of it, but those numbers are few to begin with, I think.
Yeah, when you say completely outside of the current system?
Outside of a currency recognition.
Yeah, well, that's ultimately where I would like to exist. I have a brother who's quite an academic, and he's skeptical about many of the pieces of information I put before him. But in his entire life, he has never supported the use of money. He feels and instinctively he knows it's an obstruction to creativity. It's a limiting factor, as you just said. Yeah.
I hate to use an outside source, but when you look at Star Trek, and if you're a Star Trek fan, it does not take you long to understand how it's possible. It's not a stretch of the fantasy and imagination to understand how that is actually how an advanced civilization is intended to work, and that we have the rights to be an advanced civilization.
The interesting thing at the moment is that one of the things that's occurred to me quite recently is that there's really a technological phase we're meant to go through with free energy devices and various other kinds of devices that are quite different to the technology that we've been forced to use for the last 110 years, because we really should have toggled into that age with Nikola Tesla around about the First World War. It should have really kicked in. In fact, the First World War should never have happened for that reason, because the technology would have taken us to a point where we just didn't need to do that stuff, even by then, even within, because it was really about 1905 he was producing electric motors that could run themselves. So we've really been forced to miss that step, and it seems to me that we're going to jump pretty much via a couple of minor intermediary stages, pretty much to using our own technology, similar to what the Sasquatch can do. And Thomas, is that something the Sasquatch are actually telling you too, that that's going to be part of this evolutionary shift? The human technology is really going to kick in?
Well, what I can say on that is that humans will begin to realize, and I use the word humans because that's something everyone understands, the body itself is actually a skin suit that we live in. If anyone knew what we really were or what we truly were, they would probably go into anaphylactic shock. In any case,
let me finish. Yeah, go for it, mate. Go for it.
I was just going to say that as we go through this time, go through this age, and the shift occurs, that's when we will really realize at that point that the human body itself is the technology. It is the true technology. Everything we call technology right now is just a false overlay to continue to control all of us. So,
well, Heather's actually saying that that a lot of the technology that we're actually using are actually kind of low-grade hacks of things that come out of the human body.
Yes.
And that if we go to the real thing. Why mess around with low-grade copies when we could go to the real thing? And, I've got two people sitting in front of me. Thomas is telepathically connected to the Sasquatch. Julian is telepathically connected to all sorts of things. Cheryl, who was on the line a minute ago, is a practicing shapeshifter. How much evidence do we need that the human body is not what we're taught at school?
So
yeah, the thing I would say about that is you have to basically reverse everything. All of us were taught that we're humans and we have a soul, and the reality is we're souls and we have a human skin suit. Go ahead, Julian.
I was just going to share, there's actually no surprise why kids are attracted to superhero comic books. And they're going to find out why within this lifetime.
How cool is that?
Mhm.
Bring it on. Yeah, well, the kids actually imagine they can fly. Walk through walls. You see kids doing it all the time. The sort of what we call fantasy play. Is it fantasy, or are they really just playing out stuff that they're still kind of remembering because they haven't been deprogrammed and reprogrammed by the system?
Well, there's several children in China that are doing literally law-breaking things. The laws that we seem to understand.
Yeah, well, laws are
breaking the laws of reality. Yeah.
The so-called laws are just limitations set up by the people who are controlling this current reality. Mainly by the media and the education system. They're not really laws of the universe. They're laws of this system, for the purposes of this system controlling this system.
Yeah, and I can only express from my point of view. My reality got shattered a little while ago. Slightly just before Michael, then Michael came in and actually showed how my reality, how when my reality got shattered, made sense. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, maybe I didn't actually shatter my reality. Maybe I actually walked into more real reality, like a greater understanding of reality. It's space where more is possible.
I'd view that not as a shattering of reality, but breaking out of a cocoon. Would that be a better analogy?
Yeah, that's probably much better.
Because if you're in a cocoon and that's all you've ever known and you break out of it, well, that's shattering your reality, but you're just stepping into a greater one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's really what's going on across the planet. But we've been in a cocoon, we've done our time in here, and folks like Cheryl and yourself and Thomas are really just examples of people who've actually, broken out of it earlier.
It's going to sound crude, but there's still a pain within me that speaks to not being able to continue to fully explore these potentials. It's almost like I'm the butterfly, but I'm pinned to like a pin. I'm stuck. I'm not able to continue to expand at the rate that I want to. And there's a purpose in this point in time that is important to understand. That why can't we fly just because we believe so? And the understanding why we're still pinned is kind of the purpose of this moment in time and this position of development, and why it seems like there's only so few people that are having these experiences. And,
apparently it's not so few, Julian. I don't think it's so few.
I'm talking about I want everybody to know this.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
Guys, we're actually going to lose the on-air stream in about 60 seconds, but there's a few people with their hands up, and if you guys don't mind sticking around for a few minutes, we'll take a couple of calls. So they'll be on the recording, but you won't obviously hear them on this live stream. So Thomas and Julian, anything you want to wrap up with? Thomas first.
Be yourself. Don't let anyone change who you are. Really identify with yourself and don't be afraid to express yourself. That's my only parting thoughts.
Good thoughts. Julian, anything for the folks to chew on?
Well, I really like what Thomas said, so I'm just going to say ditto and learn learn who you really are. I mean, explore that is within you. You'll find a lot of truth in the nature you had as a child.
Yep. Look, guys, we'll just wrap it up for the live stream there. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll catch you next week, and we'll just continue with a couple more calls. If you guys hang around for a few minutes.
Sure.
I can.
Okay. We'll take area code 575.
Hi. I'm sorry to ask this question again, but what time is that show tomorrow?
Julian, what time's your show?
I believe it's going to be at 5 p.m. Pacific.
Okay, 5
that
p.m.
Would be 8 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, okay. And also, what I haven't been able to get to you, Julian. I look up your shows on OPP or whatever that is, and I can't find you. How do I get to you?
On Blog Talk Radio, which is a website called blogtalkradio.com.
Yeah.
Look up the transitioning.
Okay.
And it's part of the same grouping of the 5D media network, which Collective Imagination is a part of. So if you find 5D Media Network, you'll find Collective Imagination, you'll find the transitioning, you'll find the One People Show.
Yeah.
And I believe another one. So.
Thank you, because I haven't been able. I click your old shows and I don't get it. But anyway, thank you. I don't want to waste your time. You're all so great, and I'm very thankful for your being. Okay.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Nice to hear from you. I'll pop you back on hold.
Okay.
Okay, next one is area code 281.
Hello, this is... Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, it's Rose from Texas. I just wanted to say that what Julian was saying before about being unlimited value, we are very unlimited in our energy. Everything is energy. And what I believe is that we have created the cell phone, that is our telepathy in the physical realm. We've created the computer, that's our infinite knowledge and wisdom. And we've been creating unconsciously for forever. And we've been creating jobs to create money to pay for the things we've created.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre when you frame it that way. It seems like the most ridiculous game in town, doesn't it?
Yep, certainly does.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to turn that around. Thomas, sorry to interrupt.
I have a question for Rose, if she doesn't mind taking the question.
That would be great.
If you don't mind me asking, which part of Houston are you in?
By the Kingwood area. It's that way northeast.
I lived in Humble from 84 to 97.
Oh, wow. Wow, I love it here. I love it. All the trees, all the grass, nothing but land. I love it.
You live in my old stomping grounds. When I was in high school, I used to crash parties in Kingwood.
Oh, wow. I'm a New York City transplant. I used to live in New York. Yeah. I lived here about 11 years now. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Well, thank you for calling in, Rose. Rose of Texas. It sounds like a quilt, actually. There is a quilt called the Rose of Texas, as I recall. Indeed.
Well, I appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling in. Cheers.
Bye.
Okay, the next call is area code 715. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Chris and Julian. And my name is Jane Evershed, and I started the Optimistic Show. And I did a really cool graphic of Julian for tomorrow night and put the
Oh, that was
you? Yeah, that was me.
Oh, boy.
But didn't I make you look cool?
Yeah, almost intimidating myself, actually.
Well, I thought the Matrix graphic that Julian made for the transition show, I thought that was pretty cool with him and Bob and the sunglasses.
Oh my God, we took cool to a new level with this one.
Well, I'll have to take a look at that.
Anyway, the reason that I called was I feel like you people speak my language, and it's almost like I can't hear anybody on the planet unless they're speaking the truth. And I've almost isolated myself from humanity completely because everything they say is programmed. And then when you speak, Chris, Julian, everyone, that when you speak, I'm so resonating with it. But I've never seen an off-world being. I have never seen a UFO. But I've always felt like I was not from here. And that's just the only thing. I wanted to breathe some fresh air and say thank you so much for your beautiful conversation. You know, that I can hear. I can hear you.
Well, thank you so much for the call. And tell me, where do you actually come from? You sound like I'm detecting a mixed accent here.
Yes, well, I was born in England, and until the age of 9, I got schooled in the British King's English, spelling, oh my God, they're spelling freaks, they are. And then I went to South Africa because they were trying to put a big white footprint in South Africa to take over. And then I came to the United States in 1984 to Minneapolis, which is like moving to the North Pole from San Diego, say. And then the other thing that I've been dying to do is every time I hear Jerry with her poetry, well, I've been doing Mother Earth poetry for 30 years. And I've been dying to share my poetry, but, you know, I don't know. I have one up in front of me, and I kind of would like to read it.
Read away. Jane?
It's called The Goddess of Giving, and it's about Mother Earth. Awaken unto this planet of gifts, her ingenuity and creativity rare among planets. The dark depths and white heights work in synchronicity to bring you a visual feast of ever-changing artistry through the zenith of chemistry, arranging all elements constantly that you might be fed and clothed royally. She winks at all of us lovingly, asking, do you not see? Let not your blindness be the end of humanity. I provide abundance through harmony.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Jane.
Very nice.
Okay. So I'll talk to Julian tomorrow night with Diane and Tim on the Optimistics.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that, Jane. Thanks for calling in.
Okay, cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
One more.
Speaking of accents, before you take that last caller, I just want to say that I was informed by an Englishman over in Scotland this afternoon of how to properly do an Australian accent.
What?
I was informed on how to say Australian properly. If you say the word is spelled S-T-R-I-N-E, and if you say that word, then you're saying Australian properly, and the word is strawn.
Exactly. You got it. What Australians do.
What the heck?
Yeah, what Australians do. See, I don't speak. There's a recording that I could not play on the air that I received this morning, which was a prank call played on an Australian truck driver who was exercising his profanities vigorously throughout the whole call. But his accent is classic heavy Australian, and I don't actually use that. If I'm with my brothers, okay, and there's no one else around, well, we're straight back into that. What we do is we actually, because we're very lazy speakers, we actually lop the fronts off words, we run the vowels and consonants together, and we speak quickly. So if you go to far north Queensland, as an American, and Texans speak fairly slowly, as do Thomas, you would find it very difficult to understand the locals, unless you slow them down, make them pronounce the words, because they just get run together. It's a dialect. Like, if, for instance, the reason I was asking Jane is that if you listen to a lot of English folk, you can start to identify exactly where they come from. There's a London accent, there's a southwest British accent, there's a Middle England accent, there's Welsh, Northern Middle England, Lower Scotland. As you move further north till you get to the top of Scotland, I can't understand any of it much, frankly, unless they again just try to enunciate the words. So it's really interesting and it's the same thing in the US. I can get LA versus New York, Texas. There's sort of 4 different accents I can identify, but I know there's a lot more.
The only accent that ever threw me when I was driving a cab back in the 90s in Houston was a British Airways flight attendant that was from Wales. I could not place her accent at all. I had to ask her where she was from.
Yeah, Welsh accents can be really soft and a bit subtle. My favourites are actually Irish. I love Irish accent.
Yeah.
Enjoy listening to Irish. So, it's good stuff. Look, we'll take this last call so you guys can get on with your days. Okay, area code 760. Hello. Hello, area code 760.
Maybe their mic is on mute.
Maybe it is. Okay, look, if everyone whose call has been answered could put their hand down just so that I can make sure we haven't actually missed anybody. I think we've got everybody.
By pushing 1 again, yeah.
Yeah, if you push 1 again, you'll be putting your hand down. Thanks, Julian.
Yeah, Australian's actually my favorite. Australian's actually my favorite accent. I know that. It sounds like, Australians are ordinary accents, but Canadians really tend to love Australian accents. I don't know why.
I'll send you this sound recording, Julian. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. It's very funny. Okay, look, I'll just try a couple more of these calls because the board shuffles round and I've failed to write down the extensions as I should. So I think we do have a couple more callers. Okay. Area code 678. Hello. Okay, we won't worry about that call. Hello, area code 281.
Yeah, that's Rose.
That's Rose, is it? Yeah, are you still there, Rose?
It might be me.
It might be you?
Might be you.
Yeah.
Okay. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You have a question for Julian or Thomas?
Well, actually, no, I didn't. I don't know how my hand got raised. I have my headphones on and my phone in the pocket, and I heard it say, "You're in the queue." That was a long time ago, and I didn't know how it happened. But I'm glad that you came to me because I'd like to connect with Rose if she's in Kingwood. I'm in New Caney, and we're just down the road from her. And I put that in the chat, but I guess she's not in the chat.
What was your what is your name? I'm sorry, I didn't hear your name.
Oh, my name's Anna.
Anna, living in New Caney, I'm sure you've heard the age-old joke of them combining Porter and New Caney together.
Yes, I have.
Okay, well I won't reiterate that here then.
Okay. Well, Thomas, what's the best way for those guys to connect? I mean, we don't really want to be passing phone numbers on the air. Facebook?
You know, if Facebook, or if they send you a message across Blog Talk Radio, you can connect them, and that way they can connect with each other.
Well, if they want to find me on Facebook, Julien Wells, I'll connect them. Just add me as a friend on Julien Wells. I'm easy to find, and I think that might be the fastest, easiest way if you both have Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, Facebook is very effective.
And it's Julian spelled with an E. A lot of people get that missed.
Okay. Well, I hope Rose is still listening.
I think she is, so that should work well for you. Well, I'll pop you back on hold, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Anna.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Now, last call, area code 612.
Hello.
Hi. Who are we speaking to?
Chris, this is Elizabeth from Minnesota.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I just want to tell you, great job. This was an awesome filler-in show you did.
Thank you. Thanks to Thomas and Julian as well, of course.
Absolutely. Yep. And then I wanted to give everybody, because it is hard to find sometimes on Blog Talk, I want to give everybody, the ones that don't have a computer, Julian's phone number went on the Saturday show at 4 p.m. Julian, great show, by the way, and thank you for what you do.
Thanks.
And, and I just want to say that we have a Diamonds Forever 30-minute world news update. Every other Thursday we put the greatest news together, the propaganda machine, but we do it in such a way where it encourages you that things are moving, things are shifting. If I could give that number too. But let me do Julian's number here. I got to get it on my phone here. 1 second. Get it up. W. Walking in Energy, 347-945-6619. And then the Diamonds Forever, it's on this Thursday at 7 p.m. Central. That's 209-255-1000. And the PIN number is 883267 and the pound sign. And, I'm one of those, Julian, and, I forgot your name, Tom, I think, or
Thomas.
Thomas, yeah. Asking for our brothers and sisters' visits, and I had a very vivid dream the other night, and actually I told Andrew too, and he's they're setting up visits with me, so thank you for passing that information on. We're excited. I told my 4-year-old granddaughter that I'm teaching her this stuff. She's excited. She gave me a high five. I said, we're going to give visitors first. And she gave me a high five. I said, yay, Grandma.
Fabulous. Okay. Great stuff. Yeah, look, very exciting stuff coming up.
Yes. And you guys do a fabulous job. So,
Chris, I wanted to ask you, do you have anybody on your switchboard that may be a Skype caller?
They generally come in all ones, don't they?
All ones, or sometimes a name will show up.
There's one that's a name, Liberty Sec.
Well, if you want, I know that there's a friend of mine listening. I just talked with him, and if you'd like to bring them on for a moment and see if that's who I think it is, or hope it is.
Okay. Hi, Liberty Sec. We're just testing to see if this is Thomas's friend.
No, it's not.
It's not? Oh, well, darn.
No,
I
feel like I could be Thomas's friend. I appreciate everything he does, but I think I have a higher voice than his friend.
And your name is, if you don't mind?
I'm Sue Rhodes. I'm one of the transcribers.
Hi, Sue. How are you doing?
The show is fine. Hi, Julian. How are you?
I'm doing awesome.
Right.
We're just talking about what a great show this is and what a pleasure it's going to be to transcribe. Awesome.
Well, thank you very much.
A lot of times,
be sure and transcribe the proper pronunciation of Australian, and it's Strine. Strine.
Yeah, I can write that down. Strine.
In fact, in amongst ourselves, amongst Australians, that's what we call the really hardcore slang version of the tongue is strine. That's its name, strine. For those that didn't know.
Well, this is really an awesome show, and I can't wait to take my portion to transcribe, because every time I do transcribe, I understand more of what you guys are saying, and it really helps me sink in anyway, and I know it helps other people when they can read the transcript. So thank you for all you do.
You're welcome. And how many people are on the translation team now?
Transcribing team.
I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think we got about a dozen. There's a dozen of us now.
Look, well, thanks to all of them, because it is a fantastic service. Because there are people who just can't listen to the shows for whatever reason, or like yourself, they want to read through in detail exactly what happened.
Exactly. That's what I do.
I wanted to say that I was one of the early transcribers, and it was actually a major part of my my energetic awareness development, because as I was transcribing Heather's words, I empathized at a whole new level, and I really got to get it, because I had to have it play at like 50% speed in order to keep up.
With her especially, yeah.
Yeah, and her words really sunk in those moments in time, and so actually I would not have begun to trust my intuitive psyche until that occasion occurred. So it was actually a pivotal point for me to go through the transcriptions and transcribing the collective imagination early this year.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting piece of information, Julian.
Mm-hmm. Chris?
Yeah.
This is Elizabeth. Just really quick, I gave the wrong number. The number I did give for the Blog Talk is the Walking in Energy show, and that's on Sundays at 3 p.m. Central. And by the way, the last 3 shows, that's the ones I've watched so far. Oh my God, you guys can't miss those. You got to go listen to them.
It's a trip.
Yeah. And Julian, is your number, the phone number, the same as the collective imagination, right?
Yes, it's all they share the same number.
They do.
Yeah. Do you have that by hand? Otherwise, I can give it. I started it. I should end it, I guess.
Yeah.
Here, hold on.
You may as well make the correction.
Okay, I'll get it. It's right here. A collective imagination. 646-716-4598. That's Julian, and the one I gave before is Walking in Energy for the live shows. And I want to, Chris, those Walking in Energy shows are awesome too. Oh my goodness. We need to become the full pure technology soon, because I'm having a hard time keeping up with everything. And we come to pure technology, we can get it all at once. Boom, in a flash of a light, huh?
Exactly. And look, we talk about human technology. The internet is just a representation of what we can do telepathically. Think about that.
Yeah, I know.
Extraordinary.
Okay, love you guys.
Okay, thanks for calling in. Okay, look, everybody, I think we've covered all the questions, and actually, we have covered all the questions. Everybody's done. So, look, thanks everybody for participating. Thomas, Julian, it's been really good, and to all the people listening to this podcast, thank you for hanging in for the extra 20-odd minutes to get through the questions, a bit more information, some really interesting callers. So, we'll see you guys next week, and we'll see Thomas and Julian together in a couple of weeks on transitioning. Julian tomorrow on the Optimistic Show, and we keep moving forward. Thomas, Julian, final words?
Thank you, and glad to be here.
Great stuff. Okay, goodbye for now, everybody.
Good.
Bye, everyone.